The one thing you need to understand is that carbohydrates are actually your friend, not your enemy, unless you like starving your brain of its primary energy source. So today I want you guys to understand that carbohydrates aren't always the bad guy. Today I want to actually tell you of what actually happens when you eat carbohydrates so you can be informed on your decisions next time you eat them. So, first, what happens when you eat carbs? Okay, so when you ingest carbohydrates, either a simple sugar, complex carb, anything like that, what's going to happen is you're going to digest it. It's going to be absorbed into the bloodstream as glucose. And glucose is your primary energy source. Some people will talk about what are ketones, and I will get into that in a later video. But for now, we're going to talk about how carbohydrates transform into glucose and how that can benefit you on your body composition goals. So anyways, when you ingest carbohydrates, it raises your blood glucose levels. And when it does that, your body will actually release what's called insulin from your pancreas. And you might have heard of insulin before. It is a steroid hormone. And the goal of that insulin being released is to transport that glucose into the cell. And what you really want to do is prioritize, or I guess make the most efficient process of what's called insulin sensitivity. And that's your cell's ability to store the carbs that you just ate as glycogen in your skeletal muscle mass and also in your liver. So that is a little background of what's happening when you ingest carbs. So let's talk about how it can benefit you. So most people are scared about eating carbs during the day because carbs is what leads to fat gain, right? Well, depending on so many factors, that is true and false. What I mean by this is, say a smaller framed ectomorphic individual that has a really high metabolism might be able to metabolize those carbs a lot easier than, say, an endomorphic type, heavier set person, because their body's ability to utilize those carbohydrates. So how it can benefit you is if you are more of a smaller framed individual, I would shoot by eating more carbs maybe in every meal. Because another benefit of having carbohydrates is that it is actually muscle sparing. See, if you actually don't eat carbohydrates and you deplete your glycogen stores, your body still is trying to resort to glucose as your primary energy source. So if you're trying to starve your body of that primary energy source, it's actually going to start converting and breaking down muscle tissue and transferring it into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. And so if you're trying to be in a caloric surplus or trying to gain muscle, it's very hard on a very low carb diet just because of that reason of its muscle sparing. So I like to elevate my protein levels and decrease my carbs slowly when I'm trying to lose fat. But you don't want to drop it too far because you'll totally deplete your glycogen, you'll flatten out, and it'll be detrimental to your muscle gain.